call the meeting to order, Policy Committee meeting, May 6th, 2025. The time is 3:47. Ms. Kennedy, is there a quorum present?
Yes, there is.
All right, please stand for the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you all for being in attendance today. So the agenda is out there for everyone to see. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
So, thank you, Tara. Nick, I'll take yours as a second.
You bet.
Any discussion? Discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. All right, we have then up our review of policy. Okay, so remember, we do not, review means that we are looking at the entire policy. So we have a handful of policies here up for review. We'll take them one at a time. The following policies are being reviewed as part of the 3-year rotation review cycle. The policies have been reviewed by Barbie Raisler, who is our Director of Director of Grounds and Finance. And she is recommending no changes to any of these at this time. So looking at the order, is there a motion to approve sending policy 701.1 budget modification with no changes to the school board?
So moved.
All right, thank you, Nate. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Wendy. All right, so it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on 701.1 budget modification?
Mr. Chair, I just want to mention on the first page there, 3B, it says that, we can, for the budget, if we get to a meeting at the school board and we see something like, oh, we need to change this or something, that we still can do it, although we should probably have looked at it a few times before so we don't have to go back over it again. So yeah, I'm fine with that. But I just wanted to mention that if there is something that we see right at the board meeting, it doesn't prevent us from trying to make that change. But you'd probably have to go through it again or something for the background materials. So other than that, I'm fine. I just wanted to mention that. That was clarification. I think I talked to you about that. So.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of sending policy 701.1 budget modification to the school board signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Is there a motion to approve sending policy 703 annual audit with no changes to the school board?
So moved.
Thank you, Wendy. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Durrance. Discussion for 703 annual audit. Discussion. This policy was adopted in 2022, May of 2022. So this is its first time in review cycle for us. So, all right. Hearing no call for discussion, all those in favor of sending policy 703 annual audit to the school board with no changes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Is there a motion to approve sending policy 705 investments with no changes to the school board?
So move.
All right, thank you, Nick. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Discussion for 705 investments.
Mr. Chair? Yeah, I would just, on page, it's 5, I don't know what pages, the pages aren't numbered, but it's 5, Roman numeral 5B, when they talk about the investment process and shall refrain from personal activity that could conflict with investment. I just want to get the policy committees, just their view on, I know that we've talked about it when I met with you. I know Chad Wolf, he's a president of Reliance. But he personally doesn't, with our activities with Reliance Bank, we do not go through him, we go through someone else.
That is correct.
Not
Yep.
the president. So, does anybody see a problem with that? That's what I wanted to ask, so. I'm fine with it too, but I just wanted to clarify. Okay, thank you.
Just as a point of reference, the original adoption of this policy was November 11th, 1974. All right, and it has been revised in 98, 2014, and 2018. So this is not by any means a new policy, so.
Raise your hand if you're born.
Any
What
further
did you say?
discussion?
No.
Any further discussion?
No.
All right, hearing none, all those in favor of sending policy 705 investments with no changes to the school board signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Is there a motion to approve sending policy 714 fund balances with no changes to the school board?
So moved.
Thank you, Tara. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Wendy. All right, discussion for 714 fund balances. Any discussion? This policy was adopted in December of 2019 and was last revised December of 2021. So it is now up for review in the first time. So any discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Is there a motion to approve sending policy 730 payroll periods with no changes to the school board?
So moved.
Thank you, Nate. Is there a second?
Second,
All right, thank you. That was you, Linda, right?
yes.
Okay.
Usually I don't second.
Discussion.
So this is one that we wrote ourselves.
Yes, so this was, if you look, the date of adoption for
Yep.
this is April of 1975.
I was
Yes.
just about ready to graduate. Seriously, 23, 75.
So it just states when
I was longer.
our employees will be paid. And it's been revised in 89, 2002, and 2022 was the last review. So it is just up for its 3-year review, so. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of sending policy 730 payroll periods with no changes to the school board, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. That is the last of the review policies that we have. We now are on to revisions of policies. The first one up is policy 515, which is titled Protection and Privacy of Pupil Records. So this one has come through this committee before. It was passed by this committee and sent on to the school board. And then there was an amendment that was made at the school board level. And then the school board decided 2 things. One, that it should go to the attorneys for conversation. And then 2, once that had happened, it should come back to this committee before going back to the school board, all right? So I'm just going to read the amendment that was proposed at the school board level, all right? Then I will read the attorney's statement on that amendment, and then I will leave it open for someone to say they propose that we send the original 515 or they propose that we send the amended 515. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. So policy 515, protection and privacy of pupil records. Policy 515 was referred back to the policy committee during the board meeting on March 17th, 2025 to review proposed amendments. Page 24, section 8B. Okay. I'm going to say that again. Page 24, section 8B. Private records not accessible to parent. Right? After language of 1E, insert a 2, and then 2 would state, upon parental request, the responsible authority must not conceal or deliberately withhold information to a parent regarding their minor child's A, request to use a different name or pronoun to be recognized as a different gender, to be recognized as a different to gender, or B, request to receive gender-affirming care that involves medical interventions, including but not limited to puberty-blocking medications, hormone injections, or sex-altering surgeries. Okay? So that was the 2 different amendments that I think were put in there. Do you need me to read those again?
I thought they were all, from what I understood.
Are they all together?
That's what I
Okay.
understood.
So there's a 1
It's
and
not, well, it should be and, probably, at the end there.
should
Because
be
I took this as all one.
as all 1? Okay.
What did you, Cassie? Did you take that as?
I think all.
All
I
1?
think
Okay.
she meant it as one.
Okay. So would you like me to read it again, or, I think it's located on your agenda as well.
It is. It
So,
is.
all right. Okay, so that was the amendment that was then sent to our attorneys. The response that I received on April 29th, Tuesday, April 29th, from our attorneys about this amendment said, Jamie, current policy 515 is consistent with state law. I'm concerned about including a blanket exemption for certain categories of data when that exemption is not consistent with state law. Anytime that the school district determines that information shall be withheld in the best interest of the minor, whatever the nature of the information, the school district shall withhold the information. Minnesota Statute 13.02, Subdivision 8 states, and I quote, the responsible authority shall withhold data from parents or guardians or individuals acting as parents or guardians in the absence of parents or guardians upon request by the minor, if the responsible authority determines that withholding the data would be in the best interest of the minor. To comply with this requirement, Policy 515, Section 8B, A, 1A through D includes the steps that must be taken by the minor and the school district to meet this standard. As you know, it is the usual circumstance when a school district, it is the unusual circumstance when a school district would make the determination to withhold data from parents. They go on to say, for health records, there is a very high standard under Policy 515 8B1E to withhold such records. Under current policy language, this information can only be withheld if disclosure of it to the parent may lead to physical or emotional harm to the minor. In my practice, I have never seen this standard met. This language is consistent with Minnesota Statute 144.292, Subdivision 7, which allows withholding of health records from a patient, which includes parents if a provider reasonably determines that information is detrimental to the physical or mental health of the patient or is likely to cause the patient to inflict self-harm or to harm another. The provider may withhold the information from the patient and may supply the information to an appropriate third party or to another provider. The other provider or third party may release the information to the patient. This was sent to me by Margaret Skelton, who is an attorney at Ratwick, Rozak, and Maloney.
Jamie, did they say anything, because I know with all this hullabaloo here with the Civil Rights Act, did they refer to that, Civil Rights Act of 1964? Did they talk about that any way? Because I know federal law supersedes.
No, everything that was sent to me, I just read.
Yeah,
So it appears that the attorneys are saying from the attorney's point of view, to not allow this amendment to go through. Okay? So at this point, I would entertain a motion for someone to, so let's put it this way. Is there a motion to approve sending, how am I gonna read this correctly? Is there a motion to approve sending 515 with the amendment that was read previously to the school board?
I'll move.
Okay?
I
Is there-
don't like the amendment as it is, but,
So
because,
the
what I'm
motion has been,
worried-
we're not discussing
okay,
yet, sorry.
all right.
There's, it's been moved. Is there a second? Is there a second? Is there a second? Okay, so the motion dies due to a lack of second. So is there a motion to approve sending policy 515 without the amendment proposed to the school board?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second for that?
Second.
All right, thank you, Nick. Now, discussion on 515, which is the previous policy that we did. Do you remember, Ms. Kenny, when we went through this? It would have been the beginning of March? February?
Probably the beginning of March.
Yeah, that we've already had discussion around 515. Is there any further discussion around 515?
Okay, I know this was a revision, but I've got a couple of concerns I have with this policy. Is this the time to say it now, or do we send it back? And then they'll say, well, why didn't you discuss it at the
So
policy?
at this point, this is still just the revision, so we would only be
So,
only be discussing the red lines.
Okay, if I express my concerns at the school board meeting, they're gonna say, why didn't you do it at the policy meeting? So what is the procedure for me to, should I write something up and then send it to the school board, or what?
So the piece with this committee is that when it is a revision.
Well, I
we're-
know that.
Yeah, we're only looking at the red pieces. So as a board member, you do have the right to bring your concerns during the discussion phase during the
Correct.
policy
Okay.
around the
It
entire
is probably a good
policy.
idea for me to address them in written form and send it to John and you, and then to get it out to the rest of the school.
Yes, because
Because I do have some concerns.
yeah, we have agreed at here that when we look at revisions, we only look at the changes that were made. When we look at review,
Yes,
so in
yes,
3
I
years,
do-
when this
I
comes
know
up
the
for
difference.
review,
It's just that
yeah,
the more I look at this policy, the more problems I have.
Okay.
So
But,
So-
maybe
I
I
mean,
should quit reading it.
My support of bringing this back to the policy was because I wanted it to be reviewed by the attorney first and foremost, but also, like, I don't know how to formulate a decision unless I have all of the information. So is there an avenue where she can address her concerns? Or, I mean, I know that as a school board member, I set policy, but I don't actually work in the schools and live with the policies and enforce the policies. So I want to make sure that the policies are workable and appropriate for those actually doing the job. I guess I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk about the attorney's letter, but from my interpretation of just hearing you read it, it feels like we would not deliberately withhold information. if I'm hearing that correctly, and that makes me feel comfortable with the policy as written.
Is it a good time to discuss now or not? No.
So we're just discussing any of the revisions to 515.
Okay, in referring to the letter, I guess I don't have a problem with the physical, but the emotional is, you can withhold information because of emotional. And, a student can go to to the administrator or whatever and say, well, I want to do this, and my parents won't do this, but won't go along with me, so I'm, it's causing me emotional harm. I can see, because emotional is so subjective, I guess. Physical, I think the original, the reason for this policy was probably physical or sexual abuse. Because if there's sexual abuse by parents, we wouldn't want them to see, or physical abuse, we wouldn't want the child, if the child is reporting that, we wouldn't want the parent to know that. But I think it's now gone into a different area, and it's like, it's a gray area, and so that's, I think, why I'm concerned about it, because of the word emotional, because if kids can take that to wherever, and I guess I'm just concerned about parental rights, and so what should the protocol be then for me?
So the protocol is that this,
I'll write it up then.
this committee is going to vote on whether to send 515 as
Your mic.
written to
Oh, sorry.
the school board, all right? Because we're only looking at
Yeah,
revisions.
right,
All right,
correct.
so at the school board, it will come up for it would go back for a second reading then?
Yes,
Is
I
where
believe
it
so.
would fall. So at that time, then any board member can bring any concern about any part of the policy that they have.
Okay.
All
Yeah.
right? So as much as it sounds counterintuitive for me to say, because I always say bring it to the policy committee, in this case, it would actually go to the board. Okay?
Yes, okay.
And then the board
I just
would-
wanted to make sure I
Yep.
had my.
And then the
ducks in
board
a row.
would decide, like, if you're proposing another amendment, or if you're just willing to discuss it, or what it is, then the board would decide, are you gonna vote on that, which is their prerogative, or are they gonna send it back again to this committee? Okay?
Okay.
Any further discussion on 515? Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the revisions to policy 515 and sending it to the school board signify by saying aye.
Jamie, you
Yeah.
mean the revision that she
There-
just put in?
We're still voting on the revised policy.
Yes, but I
Right.
mean, are we voting on the amendment? No, the amendment didn't go.
No,
Okay,
just
gotcha.
515 as it is
Because
in
we
front
didn't have
of
a
you here.
second.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right, all those in favor of sending 515 as it is in the packet here in front of you to the school board signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm going to say no,
Okay,
just because we took
so
my basis.
motion passes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 1, okay? There's that. That is where this is. There we go. All right, is there a motion to approve sending revisions to policy 704, development and maintenance of an inventory of fixed assets and a fixed asset accounting system to the school board?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Wendy. Any discussion on policy 704? You can see the red lines are on 704-1 under section 3. There is a addition on 704-4 to one of the bullets. And then there is, a cross-reference that has been added on 704-5. And those are the only changes. Okay. So any discussion? Discussion?
I just want to ask a question, if I may, on the first page. 25,000, since I'm not within the school, well, I'm a school board member, but not within the schools, is that seem like a reasonable amount to, like, Nick, 25,000? Just want to make sure that these are,
So I think so this wouldn't necessarily be at the building level.
so this would be at the.
This would be at the district,
District level.
this would be more at the district
Okay.
level.
Okay,
So more of the approval of, so if we needed, I mean, it could be at the building level, but it's more likely gonna go through a capital
Okay.
piece, which would be then at the district level.
Okay.
Most of our buildings don't have.
Our capital
elementary-
budgets are usually around $5,000 for
Yeah.
the year anyway, so it wouldn't, yeah, like Jamie said,
Yeah,
it wouldn't.
so this would
I
be
just
more at a
wanted to
district
ask what
level.
the rest of them.
Yeah.
Okay,
Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of sending revisions to the policy 704, development and maintenance of an inventory of fixed assets and a fixed asset accounting system to the school board, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. All right, we move on to new policy. So there, if you remember back, beginning of March, I'm going to say as well, two technology policies were brought to us. One was passed and moved on. There were concerns that were brought up at this forum and at the school board level. So that policy has been given a number, which is 599. Right. The concerns that were brought up, and it was tabled, I'm sorry, it was not brought up to the school board, it was tabled during March 4th here until today, due to concerns around First Amendment. So this policy was forwarded on to our attorneys, yet again, same attorneys, Margaret Skelton at Ratwick, Rozek, and Maloney. And her response was, Jamie, with respect to the social media policy, which is 599 that you have here in front of you, while I know that other districts have adopted similar policies, there are concerns with a number of such policies. The attached use of social media policy would need to be revised to avoid potential First Amendment concerns. She then goes on to ask, would you like us to propose revisions to this policy? Okay. So I do have Mike Birding here if we have questions for him. The way that I see it is this committee has three choices. One is to push the policy through as written. Two is to have our attorneys work with us to try to shore up some of the First Amendment concerns and language that is in here. And the third one is to say, you know what, we are not interested in this policy. Okay? We would not recommend it to the school board. Okay? So at this point, I guess I would open it up because there are three possibilities. I guess I would open it up for discussion around which one of those three you would be interested in.
Mr. Chair, the MSBA doesn't have this policy.
This is not an
And
MSBA
so
policy.
are they working on a policy?
I don't
Because
believe
maybe
they
if
are.
they're working, because if they did, maybe we could save a little time and effort and just let them do it.
No, I don't believe they were working on.
So, do we need it? That's my, I guess what I want to say, and was it Mike, you wrote this, I think?
This was
Who was-
adapted from
Right.
Centennial
Oh,
School
okay.
District. Yes, he brought it for
and
us.
I think there's some on pages, I think 2 and 3, there's some very good points, like maintain professionalism and everything like that. I guess my main concern is, and I don't know what the attorneys, but I actually had another attorney look at it, and she just got back to me today. And she said, you know, for instance, on page 5, under 6D, I'm just going to tell her concerns. Like she said, I took some time yesterday to review the policy. At first, I was a little concerned. some of the factors mentioned, such as harmony in the workplace, were red flags to me. Because like it's in the middle of, on page 5D, in the middle of the paragraph, disharmony in the workplace. That could be, maybe a teacher or administrator or something had to reprimand another individual, a staff member, or something like that. And, this, I think it's so subjective. And sometimes I think we do need a little, maybe if there is disharmony, maybe that's because something isn't working right. So it's so subjective to me. And when she mentioned that, I thought, yeah, she's right. She said disharmony, that was a red flag for her. And so I think we need to work on it, but I'm not sure.
And I will just follow that up with saying, our attorneys did not give us anything that they want to know how much we want them to dig into it before they spend the time digging into it. What they're looking for us to decide is, if we want the policy, their suggestion is that we work with them to have them help us get some of the concerning pieces out of it.
So some of this is protocol, so it's not policy, right? So a lot of times we put protocol, we take that and put it into policy, correct? Is there some sort of protocol for this?
Some of these pieces do fall in other areas of policy or in other areas of professional expectations that would fall in procedures or
procedures would be. I think protocols.
Conduct requirements.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily always fall within policy, so.
Okay. I know for me, I don't think I want it as such, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
If we need it, maybe we don't need it. I don't know if there's enough procedure in place. If we do need it, but sorry, Cassie.
Where is the social media addressed in like our employee handbook?
Mike, do you want to come forward and explain some of these pieces, please?
I guess my only thought is we have a cell phone policy for our students. It's an expectation that our students aren't on Facebook or Snapchat or TikTok or whatever media that you want to use. It would also be my expectation that employees wouldn't be on TikTok and Snapchat and all of the things during the workday.
So I would just say our cell phone policy is for everyone, not just students. So it encompasses staff, students, and any visitors to our building, so.
So that's policy
Cell phone.
524.
524, yeah. So that was intentionally written to encompass all people in the buildings, not just students, so.
And I do like aspects of this. It's just that, I guess to me with the First Amendment there, it just, we gotta be very careful about that, so.
Any further discussion before we I throw something out there and we see kind of what people are interested in doing?
Let's take a step back.
Was Mike going to give us some background as to how this came about?
Well, it sounds like your question got answered,
Yep.
correct? Okay.
Okay.
Mike, can I ask you, is this fairly common among a lot of school districts in Minnesota right now? Is this newer? Where is it kind of at?
So you will see over some of the larger school districts where there are policies that are in place, the breadth of which is kind of all over the board. So a couple of the policies that I looked at, this one in particular was adapted a little bit from Centennial School District, which is up in the metro. I also did some comparison with Mankato, and then I searched other schools as well to see what are some elements that are useful in kind of the issues that we were coming across.
I guess I understand a lot of this, and
the way things are changing and evolving in technology, there's a lot of things on here that, you know, people do need to think about. But I would like to know more information about what the lawyers say is in conflict with the First Amendment before we would do something with it, because I think there's a lot in here that could be, I don't know.
And what kind of issues are coming forward to you, Mike, that is either covered by this policy or covered by other policies? Because I don't want to just add a policy because it puts a bunch of policies together. But if there is a critical need, if there's something that staff may need in-service on, specifically related to social media, seriously, I don't know how anyone has time to even look at social media during the day.
Right.
It is just, the kids are just right there, and that's what we're there for. So if this is for staff, I think we need to figure out what it is exactly that they need to know and get it to them.
So let's do a quick consensus, because I might be starting to hear what I think is possibly consensus here is kind of give me a thumbs up or a head nod if you're thinking that you would like our attorneys to look at this more.
What are we doing?
I think so.
Okay, so with that kind of consensus, you know, more informal, then what I will do is I will make a motion that we table this until September. And Jamie, do you have the date in September that we would table it to? I don't know if we've set those. Yeah,
Yeah, we did.
yeah. I just want to make sure we get the correct date.
Second?
I think it's the second, first day of school.
Okay.
September 2nd?
So I will make a motion that we table this until September 2nd, 2025. That gives Mike Birding and myself time to work with the attorneys to go through this, to address their First Amendment concerns, and then we would bring it back at that meeting for discussion and possible passage here onto the school board. Does that make sense? So that's my motion to table this until September 2nd, 2025 at our policy committee meeting. Is there a second? Thank you, Tara. All right, discussion around tabling it. Any discussion?
Yeah, and I think we'll get good information, both from Mike and from the attorneys, and in-services to follow if need be.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor of tabling policy 599, use of social media, until September 2nd, 2025, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so that motion, or that policy will be tabled until September 2nd. Our next meeting is June 3rd, 2025. I should have an update for you by then on how many policies are potentially coming to us in August from the legislature. I may not, if the legislature does not pass a budget or goes into a special session, but we'll have an idea of kind of how many we are looking at. Remember that August can be a large month for us, and we do everything we can to get those from MSBA as quickly as possible and get them sent out to you so that you have enough time to go through them. If there is a very large amount of them, we may break them into August and September.
Thank
Right?
you.
We do that if they don't have to be passed before the school year started. But like we
Yes,
said,
yes.
you know, our meeting in September is the first day of school. So sometimes our hands are tied, and we know that MSBA spends a massive amount of time in June and July writing them up and revising them, so. All right, there are no more items to discuss. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting? Everybody wants to say?
Okay. So moved. Second.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you, Wendy. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.